In February 2017, a Chennai-based startup called Stayzilla shut down after 11 years. They started in 2005, which is 3 years before Airbnb existed anywhere in the world. They had raised around $34 million. They had over 50,000 places to stay listed across thousands of Indian towns, including small ones nobody else had bothered with. They had deals with state tourism bodies. They were, by any reasonable measure, the company that introduced India to the idea of staying in someone's home. And by the time they shut down, the market they had spent a decade creating was still there, still growing, and about to be very profitable for other people. The founder wrote an open letter explaining why. It is one of the most useful documents any Indian founder has ever published, and unfortunately, very few read it properly. He said the concept of a homestay was not familiar in India, so a marketplace had to spend on teaching people the concept itself. Their money was going into making the category exist in people's heads, convincing an Indian family in 2013 that it was normal and safe and not strange to sleep in a stranger's house. That spend does work. Every rupee Stayzilla spent making homestays feel normal. You cannot put a fence around a belief you installed in the public. They weren't building a moat. They were building a road and paying the full cost of it, and it was open to traffic. Let's say you opened the first gym in a small town where nobody exercises. Your money doesn't go into being the best gym. It goes into a much harder argument. That exercise is a thing worth doing. That paying monthly for it isn't a waste. That your uncle won't laugh at you. You spend years on that argument. And the day you finally win it, the day the town decides that going to the gym is a normal thing a normal person does, a second gym opens across the road. And it spends nothing on the argument because you already had it and you won. You paid for the belief. He sells into it. Now the decisions, because the category problem was the situation, and what they did inside it was a choice. First one, and it's the sharpest. A marketplace does not work national. It works street by street. If you are in Krog looking for a place to sleep tonight, you do not care that there are 400 listings in Shillong. You care about the 10 near you, and whether any of them are free. Supply and demand have to be dense in the same small place at the same time, or the marketplace simply doesn't function for the person using it. Stayzilla went across thousands of. That produces an impressive number for a deck, and it produces almost nothing for a traveler, because the listings are spread so thin that any given search is disappointing. The founder said it himself that they couldn't take a focused city-by-city approach to matching supply and demand, and that having to build both the homestays and the guests across the whole country stretched them thin. So they had a coverage number that looked like scale and a density number that was too low to work anywhere. Those are not the same thing, and only one of them is a business. Second, they had to manufacture both sides at once in every one of those towns, persuade homeowners to list and persuade travelers to book, both from zero, both needing to be educated on the same unfamiliar idea. A marketplace where neither side exists yet is not one hard problem. It's the same hard problem repeated in every location with no help from the last one. Third, and this is the one that closes the trap. He wrote that they were forced to match prices and couldn't recoup what they had put in. Read that in sequence with everything above. They had spent years educating a market. That education created no preference for them specifically, because a belief about a category isn't a belief about a brand. So when better funded competitors arrived and started discounting, Stayzilla had nothing to hold the customer with except price. And a discount war is decided entirely by who has more money, which they did not. That's the whole mechanism, and it's brutal in its neatness. Pay to create the demand. Fail to attach the demand to yourself. Get outspent for the demand you created. He also later admitted they focused on growth rather than a sustainable business. Every one of these is his own diagnosis, which is worth saying because most founders never write this down, and he did. The shape shows up wherever someone is early. A pioneer arrives before a category exists. Their spending goes into explaining the idea, not into differentiating themselves inside it, because there is no inside yet. Slowly it works, and a market appears, and the moment a real market appears, it attracts people with more capital who never paid the entrance fee, who arrive to a market that already understands what they're selling, and who compete on price against a company that has already spent its money. Being first is not the same as being positioned. First gets you the education bill. Position gets you the customer. Now I have to be fair, because there are things here I can't prove and one thing I shouldn't dodge. The founder's other reason was structural. He pointed to India lacking the public goods a mature market takes for granted, things like logistics and tech-ready suppliers and existing online demand, and to those costs quietly accumulating until they get rationalized as the cost of doing business in India. I can't tell you how much of the failure was positioning. And how much was that? And neither can anyone else. There was also a funding environment that had turned cold by 2016. And there were competitors with far deeper pockets. 100 things go into 11 years. There's a real counter argument too. Airbnb faced the same category education problem and survived it. So the problem is clearly survivable. What Airbnb had was more capital and dense urban markets, where a marketplace reaches useful liquidity fast, which arguably supports the density point rather than undermining it, but I'm not going to pretend that's settled, and the part everyone actually remembers. In March 2017, weeks after the shutdown, the founder was arrested following a complaint from an advertising agency over unpaid dues of somewhere around 1.5 crore rupees, an amount and a service quality the company disputed. It caused an uproar across the Indian startup community about a civil disagreement being treated as a criminal matter. I have views on that, and they're not the point of this video. And more importantly, it explains nothing about the failure. The company had already shut down 3 weeks earlier. Whatever you think about the arrest, it happened to a business that was already gone. So here's the thing to sit with. Stayzilla did the hardest work in the market. They took an idea Indians found strange and spent 11 years making it ordinary. That work was real, it succeeded, and today nobody in India thinks twice about booking a homestay. They just never converted any of it into a reason to choose them. And a market that believes in your category but has no opinion about you is a market you have paid to hand over. So the uncomfortable question is about where your marketing money is actually going. What it's buying, because some of it is teaching people that a problem like theirs can be solved at all, and some of it is teaching them that you are the one who solves it. Those feel identical when you're spending, and they produce completely different companies. And if you're early in a category, this is worth being honest about. When the market finally understands what you've been explaining to it for years, will it come to you, or will it just be ready to buy from whoever shows up next?